Hello and welcome, Adam Thomas from Balancing Touch Reflexology. So good to see you and thanks for joining me today. Today I want to answer a question that I got. We've been emailing back and forth, and the question is about now that she's certified, and she also is asking this question on behalf of some of the other students in her class, how to make the session that they learnt kind of flow better, right? They feel that there's it's not a nice flowing session that they learned. She has sent me all the points and stuff that she learned in her reflexology session, and I've put that up against what I've learned in my session. And this tends to be a common place to be at after you have, done your anatomy, physiology, you've learned all the points, you've learned the session, and you got tested on it, and you passed, and now you have a certificate. So how is it now that you get out into the real world and perform reflexology in a nice flowing session? So in this video, I want to share some tips and tricks and what kind of helped me get more into the flow of a reflexology session. Okay, so the question is, I and some other people I have been training with were looking for a full 45-minute routine to show how to cover all the systems and reflexes within the foot. The routine we got shown to learn for the exam was very hard to learn and didn't flow easily, if that makes sense. Now qualified, I think a lot of people wonder where to go from this now, right? Obviously, each individual client is different and you would work on areas needed for them. But if it's a first client or a one-off treatment, then having a really good full routine would be great. And also would hopefully lead to clients coming back, yeah. I wonder if you had any advice on this or have already done a full routine covering each area of the foot. There's a lot there. I want to try and answer as best as I can. To put it out there, I was exactly feeling the same way that you were and many of your other students. When you first learn something and you focus and you get the routine down and it's all awkward and it looks like a huge mountain of information that you need to cover, and you finally just barely get it under your wing and pass the exam, and you have your anatomy, physiology, yay, and you have your routine, right, that you have learned. And a lot of these routines, so one issue, a lot of these routines sometimes can be taught in a way that it prepares you for an exam. So it feels very mechanical, right? You're like, okay, doing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so there isn't really a flow there. And especially when you don't have a lot of experience working with clients, the flow doesn't come till later. So thank you so much for sending me your routine and the points that you all learned, because that gives me a good insight as to what you were taught. And the interesting thing is that it's very similar to the method and the order that I got taught as well. And pretty much not all of them, but a lot of reflexology has been handed down, and this is the routine that we kind of get. And yes, it's going to feel a bit mechanical. So my first kind of advice would be to just gain confidence in the session that you learned, okay? So as I was looking at it, it's broken up into little sections, and that's what I think will help with the flow. The number one thing that I found in my practice to make things flow was, so first of all, when you're trying to remember all the points, it does feel very, robotic, mechanical, because you're like, okay, first step 1, and then we go to step 2, and then we go to step 3. And so you're really like not too much focused on the client in front of you, right? So that's kind of a disconnect there when you're so focused on your routine. So one of the things that really helped me was to get a clear idea of the flow of the session. So in my head, I have top of the foot, which is from the toes all the way down to about the shoulder line. Okay, so there's lots and lots of points, as you know, that are in that area. But what I would do is I would just, in my head, I'm very visual, so I would color in each area to make sure that I didn't forget that, right? And then as I would go. And then a really big thing that helped me was the desserts, okay? So the desserts are what I call the warm-ups. So those are the big movements that you use, loosening up the feet, the stuff that you get familiar when you first start the reflexology session. You go, hi, how are these feet and how do they function and how do they move, right? All these big movements, twisting the toes, things like that. I incorporate them whenever I forget what's coming up next, whenever my hands get a little crampy, because that's something else that can happen too that can kind of throw you off your flow, is your hands start to get sore, right? So doing these bigger motions really do help with the flow, and switching from pointed pressure to more of a movement based is going to really help that as well. So sprinkling these what I call desserts all over the reflexology session is going to be great. And as a client, and hopefully during when you are learning, you are also receiving as well as giving, and you can understand how that's really good. So another advice would be to go out and get some sessions done from your past students as well. You can do little exchanges and things like that. So understanding how a session feels and working together can really help each other gain confidence and figure out a flow that works for you. But I really don't think that the points and what people were taught can be the issue. Making it your own becomes the issue, right? And what should be most important is how you take that information that you learned and adapt it to your own well-being and your own understanding and bringing it into the flow. But I'm kind of blabbing here, but really, I think sprinkling the desserts, the warm-ups, those big things all through your entire session is a great way to bring flow to the overall feel of the entire session. And it's going to help with you staying relaxed, and it also feels really great because some clients, right? Another point is understanding your client's needs, okay? So some clients, they're coming to reflexology because they want sort of a pointed, they want to feel, the pain, no gain sort of theory, right? They want to feel all those little points, and they want to feel more of a robotic sort of mechanic pushing those points and getting right in there, right? Where other clients are going to like more of a flowing session. They don't want to be at all hurt, or jolted out of their relaxation by a sharp adrenal point. Things like that, right? So understanding your clients is also another really great point. Understanding what they are looking for in a reflexology session can ultimately adjust your whole flow, right? Somebody who likes lighter pressure is going to like a lot more slower, bigger, gentle, more sedating sort of movements, right? Where somebody who likes deeper pressure wants to get their feet worked really well, right? So you can gauge by the intake form when you first get a client, right? Find out, what pressure do you prefer? Light, medium, hard, right? That can give you a gauge as to how you can work the session. So you don't need to work in a lot of those desserts, for example, if somebody that wants really deep pressure, right? You're going to want to hit a lot more of the reflexes that are sensitive, right? So that's another little thing too, is you start, and this is where it becomes like an art of reflexology, art of developing your practice is working. You don't need to be perfect right off the get-go, right? It's a practice, right? Another little tip here is I really like to take the socks off of clients and also place them so that I can put them back on at the end of the session. I think that's a really great impression as well. So leaving little impressions along the way of your session, I think is also a really great way to work your flow into things. Creating the environment that you feel comfortable in, so that then that will transfer onto the client, is also another great little point. I also like to incorporate at the end of a session lotion or oil or things like that, so you can use different things like that, and that's what I use at the end of a session. That sort of becomes my sort of ending focus, right? So you have your session, you have all your points. In between that, you have all your desserts, and then at the end, you have more of a massage relaxation. Get some of those dry feet nice and moisturized, and I have a whole massage routine, so you can incorporate that into the session as well. I also have towels that I use that I wrap the feet in. Something that I learned in Thailand, which again became something that I incorporated into my reflexology. I wasn't taught that, but I just thought it was so great when the reflexologists in Thailand were doing that. I'm like, oh, I need to learn that. So I learned it, and now that becomes part of my session. So incorporating things that are important to yourself and that you think are really great are going to make your reflexology session that much better, right? Anything else here? Yeah, I really think that above all else is just gaining confidence in your reflexology session, right? And the biggest thing that I think for that is getting your own feet done, right? And seeing what you like in a session and what you don't like in a session, right? So for example, when I went to Thailand, I really liked their session. The interesting thing about it was they used pretty much like an oil, or what they used was a green balm and Vaseline. I saw that's what they used. And they did a massage the entire time. They were hitting all the points and stuff. What I didn't like so much was that they use a stick and they were rubbing up and down the sides like this. It felt okay afterwards, but it wasn't like something that I was like, oh, this is amazing. They did do some pointed pressure on, I think they have 26 points of relaxation that they use, and I really liked that. So there was part of the stick I didn't like, and there was part of it that I did like. So just understanding what you yourself like, then you can transfer that on to your clients, right? And another interesting point too is once you've developed your own technique and stuff, you are going to attract the clients that enjoy your session because that's what you like giving out. So I don't know if that makes sense, but I found that I wasn't able to please everybody. There are certain clients that come back to me because they like my session, they like what I'm delivering, right? And there's other clients that were looking for something else. Figuring out what you want to give to the world with using all the points that you learned is going to be really great. I do have, because there's a question here about, we're looking for a 45-minute routine. So if you're interested, I have on my website a bunch of online courses, and one of them is called In Session, where I had a friend film me over my shoulder, and I did my basically half an hour to 45-minute routine. And I don't go into a lot of detail about how to do it or position my shoulders or anything like that. But you get kind of, a fly on the wall view of a whole reflexology session. So you can just go to my website, balancingtouch.ca, and then you can go under courses and workshops, and then under there you'll see online courses, and it'll be in there. Or you can go to the store. I actually strapped a phone to my chest and did sort of my point of view, and I worked on somebody the other day. And so if you're interested, I can also show you that. It's about 30-minute, little bit over 30-minute video, and that shows not every point, but it shows how I work a session from start to finish. I didn't follow any type of notes or anything like that. I just kind of did a free flow, and I worked most of the points that I felt the client needed during the session, right? And so I take off the socks at the beginning, and I take you through a whole session. So I'll put that video after this one, so you can find that on my YouTube channel. So hopefully that helps you as well. But again, thank you so much for asking these kind of questions, because yes, when you first finish reflexology, you're excited, you're nervous, and you feel like you know nothing. And honestly, I've been doing this a while, and I still feel like I don't know anything. Every client is different. Every session is different. And so, just go in there with, I guess, belief that what you have learned is good enough, and just do your best, right? That's all you can really do. But yeah, having things like what I've been blabbing about in this video can be really great. Like just really understanding your desserts, really understanding the reflexes, so you don't have to think about them, is like ideally where you want to be at. And then you go into practice, and you really start to go deeper into actually tailoring all those points and all the way that you do it to the client, right? And then having and asking clients lots of questions about, how does this feel? Do you notice a change? Things like that will start to happen, and your sessions will just start to have its own natural flow to it. So I don't know if this answers your questions, but from my experience, I wanted to share some little tricks that I've used to help me get through and make reflexology enjoyable for myself, and hopefully the clients, and feeling confident about a flow that I have in my sessions. So there you go. Hope that helps. Until next time, this is Adam Thomas from Balancing Touch Reflexology. Remember to keep those feet happy. Bye-bye. If you're interested in learning more about reflexology, you can subscribe to the channel below. It's also very helpful to hit that like button, and feel free to share it with anybody who you think might be interested in it. You can find my online courses, Reflexology Charts, and other reflexology goodies over on my website, which is balancingtouch.ca. Thank you so much for watching today, and if you have some more time, you can check out some other videos. Till next time, this is Adam Thomas from balancingtouch.ca. See you later.